start here now. Question?
Yeah, just my only question right now is, what crime did that Shea commit?
I don't think anybody said anything about that.
I didn't hear you.
I don't think anybody mentioned that.
Okay.
Next. Your question?
Gentlemen, what was the basis of tonight's miniature town hall talking about the threats we face? Why come together and speak about this topic today?
Because we have a major threat in that arena facing us today. You read it in the scripture review, we have folks like the basement in this area. We have a history of this in our area, and it is important that we talk about it. It's important that we expose it, and it's important that we, as a community, say no. That's not what we want.
And Sheriff, you did mention in your slideshow the MLK parade back in 2011. Kind of go into that a little bit about that, and is that homegrown right here in Spokane County?
It actually came from, I think, Stevens County, if I'm not mistaken, and Mr. Martin came to MLK in 2011, put one of the most sophisticated devices that everybody at the time had seen on there, and we got very lucky, but it didn't go on. If it had, 500 kids were in that barn, and they were going to back up.
How imminent would you say of a threat are we currently facing?
We live it every day. This isn't something that just passes and comes and goes. I've lived through 3 presidential administrations now this year. During the Bush era, I had to worry about the extreme left. During the Obama era, I worried about the extreme left. During the Trump administration, I have both sides gearing up and actually trying to go at each other. So this is something we deal with.
And I'd like to clarify too, the threats we face is a series. Our organization is extremely supportive of our law enforcement and the sheriff. So this is the 3rd one we've done. This one focused on current issues, whereas the ones that we've done in the past were the MLK parade, et cetera, because those were relevant at that time.
I'm just trying to get some background.
Yeah.
And does having that Shea in Olympia, do you think that adds to the threat?
I didn't
Do you think having Representative Shea in Olympia, having someone who's promoting these sorts of views in Olympia in a position of leadership, do you think that itself poses a threat?
I think it poses a question of why is somebody of that stature hanging with people that preach this type of law? You have to ask that question. And why is it that this information, you're missing the point, this information came from Matt himself. These are things that Matt developed. Mr. Pounder can speak to that.
I think tonight was about education, having the general public understand the doctrine and the theology that is proliferating throughout the area, and to follow up with questions. Yes, I believe Representative Shea, because he ascribes to this theology, because he works with these individuals, because he associates with, that's a deep concern that he continues to represent the people of Eastern Washington in that area. The fact that political violence or organizations that espouse violence are associated with it, as a legislator, it shouldn't be associated with it.
And again, I gave source documents. This isn't hard to do, folks. All you have to do is go and Google and dive through all this material. And you don't have the one piece that I do. I have all the material that Jay has released to this point. And I've gone through it. I continue to go through it. There's volumes of it. Operation Cold Reality wasn't the only operator in that package. There's 2 more operators in that package. And Mr. Shea has mentioned in each of those operators.
Are you going to make this public?
Yes, that will go public.
Yeah, at some point we'll bring this up.
Sheriff, you in 2015 you mentioned there are some of those folks who want to overthrow the government, period, that want to hit a reset button. Do you believe that Representative Shea is one of those individuals?
I do.
I do.
I do. I won't miss words on that. I believe he wants to do exactly that. So,
And what's your response? What's the law enforcement response?
if anybody tries that, my response is we will defend the Constitution of the United States and we will protect this country. It's like I told Moisture Group, that came to visit me that one day. If you want to, and you were looking for the tripwire, my eyes will be on the same package. I will not allow that to happen. Not allow that.
Jay, you referenced the biblical basis for war document, and you expressed certainty that these were not sermon notes, it was a battle plan. Reading through it, I recognize obviously sections from the Bible are either explicit or non-explicit. Why do you believe that this is a battle plan, not something that's just, discussion essentially?
Sure, yeah. I attended the meeting August 5th and August 6th here in Spokane, Washington. It was held in Spokane Valley. That document was distributed that day. It was actually went through by Representative Shea. He walked through it, and he actually used the code, said these are the types of things you can get arrested for.
And then if you remember the email that I put up in our presentation, that email specifically talks about biblical warfare. Specifically talks about it. These kids are being trained in biblical warfare. And one of the trainers is John Weaver. And I think John can give a little bit of insight on why that is such a problem.
Well, you asked specifically what crime has been committed. Well, I for one don't think you have to wait for a crime to be committed to, as a private citizen, speak up and say, this is wrong. And when Charlottesville happened, when you had neo-Nazis marching in front of a Jewish synagogue, they may have had a legal right to gather, but I have a legal right to say this is wrong. And so when there's a narrative that seems to continue to perpetuate through the apologists for people like Marble Community Fellowship and Matt Shea, and that is, well, there's no evidence he committed a crime, so that's okay. Well, no, it's not. Because when you look at guys like Dylan Roof, who did commit crimes, they were inspired by people who didn't commit crimes, but simply said really whacked up stuff. When you look, Richard Butler, as far as we know, didn't go out and actually do stuff. He just inspired people to do stuff. Pete Peters didn't actually go out and kill Alan Berg. He just argued with him and then spent a year and a half, or I think it was about a year, talking about how horrible he was and boy, somebody should do something. Well, guess what? There were broken people who did something. And so I think there is a huge difference, and I'm glad that we have a sheriff, that we have law enforcement that still maintains that rule of law and that innocent until proven guilty. But as private citizens, I think we have a responsibility to stand up and say, this is wrong when we think it's wrong. I think the best way to combat radical speech is with better speech. The best way to address bad ideas is with better ideas. And I don't think we have to wait until the law is broken to engage in that kind of communication. I think that's what a republic is about, is that open exchange of ideas, that communication, that dialogue.
The Remnant Resolves were written about 3 decades ago. There's been a lot of time since then. The Marble Church is no longer they spun off from the Ark. I guess I'm wondering, when we talk about a lot of things like dominionism, how do we know that Matt Shea actually describes that philosophy today, or even the verbs?
Well, I think the prime point, and actually maybe the first time you and I talked personally, was John Weaver. John Weaver is that connection to the old stuff. In my presentation, I talked about how here's the Remnant Resolves in the 80s, here's what they said and agreed to then, here are statements from the 90s when they still seemed to hold at least similar beliefs, and here is 2015 when John Weaver is still saying that the Jews were Christ's enemies and the Jews were the disciples' enemies, and oh yeah, the Old South was pretty cool, and well, nobody's saying that slavery was a good thing, but boy, that sure was a pretty cool time in our history. So I think really one of the connections from then to now is to follow the rhetoric. And I think you can see the same thing in the danger And back in the 80s, you had the order doing their thing. Well, the same ideas that inspired the order to do their thing also inspired the order.
Do we know that Shea believes those things?
Well, we know that Shea has shared the stage on multiple accounts with Weaver, and we know that in the case of Team Rugged, that Shea provided financing and seemed to provide at least tacit agreement that John Weaver was a great guy to inspire these young minds to prepare for Christian warfare that was specifically targeting Muslim Americans. So back to my previous comment. That's not cool.
Sheriff, you spoke a lot about the Ferguson result, the Justice Department results of Ferguson that said that Mike Redoubt did not have his hands up. I guess I'm wondering if you thought about the other half of the report that's focused on the Ferguson Police Department, the law enforcement there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't, Daniel. Whenever you have the chance to Monday morning report back an agency, you try and pull out stuff. It sounds like that they had a community that had certain guidelines, they had their police doing certain things. I'm not here to speak about that. What I'm here to speak about is this nation's failure to recognize, and quite frankly, our media's failure to tell the American people what happened.
That DOJ report was widely reported on New York Times, Washington Post.
Speak.
That DOJ report and the findings of that report were widely reported on when it came out. I even cut a couple pieces from the past week criticizing the Democratic presidential candidates for misportraying that event, according to the DOJ's findings. Do you think it was fair then to include national media outlets in a short list of 5 extremist philosophies, including white supremacy?
You know, the one thing I haven't seen the media do in reference to Ferguson is actually do a cleanup. On the national level, this is all I really saw. Well, they found this and, oh, look at all the bad things that the Parliament did. They did go into the fact and unravel all the mess that was created at that time. And I truly believe that is something that needs to happen. Until we have the facts, when people understand the facts, we'll never understand how we got to this point. And it is a sad thing when our enemies identified that we were at a crisis point and started influencing our elections at that time.
There's probably plenty to be said about whatever echo chamber you get into between demonstrators and reporters and how that can escalate, but is that the same thing as promoting white supremacy or Islamic extremism?
I'm missing your point.
You included national media outlets on that list in that slideshow.
Yeah, I did. And I did that because it is my opinion that you need to take a hard look at what you're putting out there. That's not just the only story that I've seen. Let's just take the last week or so and look at what the New York Times did. Kavanaugh? You missed that one?
Can you elaborate?
So rather than debate your profession, let's get back on the topic of this.
Can I ask about specifically, is there anything you feel the media and media outlets, I guess, in covering the Matt Shea issue and some of these issues surrounding it, is there anything you feel that they got wrong or misunderstood or misportrayed about it?
Yes, for years. This is not a feud between me and Matt Shea. It never has been. It is about a radical ideology that I cannot stand. And I have been against this ideology for a very, very long time. That is what this is about. People want to paint it that way, and every story I read up till this point has portrayed this as some kind of grudge match between Matt and I. It's not. I actually endorsed him in 2008, my worst mistake ever. I endorsed him again in 2010. By 2010, I had identified that there were some things that were severely amiss, and by 2012, I was done. So this isn't just suddenly And Daniel, it's been a lot easier just to ride the train. It's like I said in that presentation, I would have had a lot less trouble politically in this area had I just rode the train. But there was no way I was going to do that. There was no way that I could sit back and watch what this individual is doing to our community. And the worst part is, do it in the name of God.
You've always pointed to the restoration document that had been recently released. What do you say to people that suggest that the document is merely the outline or dissection of a book series?
So when the restoration was authored and presented, 299 was a fact. It had been written. But this particular document is a collaboration between Representative Shea and other individuals that are out there. There's more in that document than just what's in 299 days. So the fact that Representative Shea authored this, that it was kind of from the same cache of documents that were provided by him at the August 5th and 6th meetings, there's more, it's a game plan, and it was that they use this as an opportunity to say, this is what's going to happen. When this happens, we're going to implement this plan. And so there are deters that would say would come from 299 days, but at the same time, there's more in it than just 299 days. There's a lot of theology backing it, like for example, the new Constitution. That's not in there.
Is there who are the other individuals that are? Do you know who those people are?
I can only speak to people I know that attended the meeting for those days.
Okay.
Did anyone over here have a question? I think I saw.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, just been really curious. So do you think the Liberty State movement is more of a threat to the people than the government, the current government, are wearing away our rights? And do you think the basis behind the Liberty State movement is to detach themselves away from the current state of affairs within the state of Washington by how they're enforcing, taking away gun rights and property rights and enforcing regulations on businesses?
So I'd like to speak to that.
Okay.
So the idea of splitting Washington State is not a new idea. You know, that article was covered. There's an article that covered that here in Spokane in a great deal of detail. As a matter of fact, when I served the 7th District, the senator immediately previous to me was Senator Morton. Senator Morton had advocated for the division of the state for better representation on the east side for more than a decade before Matt Shea came to office or even started talking about it. My concerns aren't the idea of dividing the state or finding a better way to represent the interests of Eastern Washington. My concerns are all of the other things that are combined with the Liberty State conversation. Team Rugged, talking about targeting Muslim Americans, the idea of the biblical basis for war and killing all the males of people that don't submit to you, the connections to white supremacy, the connections to anti-Semitism, the connections to groups that have espoused and have engaged violence in the past. The idea of another state isn't the problem. That's not the part that concerns me. What concerns me is all of the things that seem to be gathering around some of the current presentation. And I would be the first to offer to anyone involved in the Liberty State movement, if you want me to take you seriously, then when Matt Shea's private team, Anthony Bosworth, John Jacob Schmidt, and Jay at the time, engage in a chat conversation where they're talking about targeting the families of people who believe differently, bashing people's heads against jersey rails, hanging people up by their nipple rings. If you want me to take your movement legitimately, then don't say things like there will be Liberty State or blood. Say things like this kind of rhetoric is unacceptable for a legitimate movement that wants to enforce and protect liberty.
And also another question for the sheriff here.
You're with who?
I'm just by myself. I just have,
I allow him in, Ozzy.
yeah,
So-
I'm just by myself. I'm just a private citizen. Just have these questions I've been wanting to ask because I'm curious myself. But there's been myself and others that feel that Jay Inslee is a threat to us. And I know you came out on Fox News back in June and said he should be arrested.
I didn't say he should be arrested. I said that if he doesn't want to enforce the Constitution or the laws within this nation, he should be arrested.
Well, the spokesman, and even on Fox News, it says,
I was there for that interview, he did not say that.
well, on Fox News, it said underneath, it says, sure, it says,
Well,
should be
people
arrested.
in the world of the media.
Okay. Well, do you think he should be arrested?
If he doesn't want to follow the laws of Congress, I do. Period.
Guys, we've always been curious, and this is on Fox News, and you said, should be arrested. And we're wondering, well, why hasn't the sheriff arrested him?
It's not my jurisdiction, it's a federal law.
And would
We should
you,
be. If we have laws,
right,
and this law, per the Constitution, under the Sixth Amendment, is the supreme law of the land.
right.
So the federal government should be looking at this law.
And would you work with them, like right now, and to get him arrested?
Let me put it this way. I believe that he should be enforcing the laws of this country. And if I had to do that, yeah, I would.
Sheriff, could I ask, I'm just curious, you talked about this as a regional problem, and you said earlier it's not just a kind of grudge match between you and Mr. Shea, it's a regional problem. So I'm curious, is this something you've discussed? I mean, a lot of this stuff is happening in Stevens County or other parts of the country even. Is this something you've discussed with other law enforcement, like with the sheriff of Stevens County or with federal law enforcement, and do they share your concerns?
Everything I did was with the Joint Terrorist Task Force. Has for many years now. And every contact, I am contacted by people from Stevens County, goes to the Joint Terrorist Task Force.
So Stevens County is sending stuff to you that you're sending to the
The
Joint
citizens of Stevens County have some things to do. Yeah.
What about the sheriff though? I mean, do you have conversations with him about it? Yeah.
I have a question for the sheriff.
Yes.
Are you in favor of red flag laws as well?
Red flag laws, are you talking about laws that identify people that shouldn't have guns?
I'm talking about the thought police. That's what a lot of this sounds like. You're going with rumor and innuendo and an awful lot of this and accusing people of being a part of a group without necessarily hard proof.
Was your question about red flag laws, the laws that identify people that shouldn't have guns?
Sure.
Okay. Red flag laws, I'll tell you, that issue is probably the greatest risk to your gun rights. If we don't find a way to get guns out of the hands of people that should not have them, we will continue to have instances, and the other side of the coin will continue to demand your guns. There are people that should not have guns. I meet them on a regular basis. I've had family members come up to me and go, Sheriff, you've got to get that gun away from my kid. Why is that? Because he's mentally ill and he's going to hurt somebody. So I guess my question to you is, are you in favor of him having a gun? Or do you want to give me the ability, under due process, to ensure I protect the entire community?
Well, there's the key words there, due
Your question
process.
is one of those trap questions, and I want to just tell you it this way. We need laws on the books so we can take guns out of the hands of people that should not have them. If we don't get those laws, we will not be able to deal with situations like we had in this county a couple of years ago, where it took 3 days for me to find a way to get an individual that was shooting out of their house at imaginary people. We didn't have the tools to do it. So we need some kind of mechanism to do that.
Sheriff, you mentioned you invited Matt Shea to come discuss some of these issues with you on stage at a community meeting. He hasn't. He said, why do you think that is?
Has he ever debated his opponents?
Yes.
Once or twice, but not often. Matt, I've offered him multiple times, anytime he wants. The one thing that I want to impress upon you is, why is Matt sitting in front of you answering these questions? You all want to throw these questions at us, but why isn't Matt here answering these questions about this issue? Because I believe he owes it to the voters of this community to sit in front of you, just like we are, and take your hot questions and answer the questions about why these things are in his name. Does he truly believe this? He's the one who should be here. These are the messengers. He took great risk and said, I can't go down this path any further. You lived it. You know all the players. I've watched it for many years now. I remember standing outside of the building in Spokane Valley in 2009 after a political meeting with Matt Shea. And an individual came up and started talking about a constitutional Congress they just had. They'd chosen all their leaders and everything else, had issued writs of habeas corpus and walked away. Matt asked me if I understood what that was all about. I said, yes, I did. And I warned him at that point. I said, Matt, if you ever go down that path, it will be a bad path. He went down the path. Now it's time for Matt Shea to sit here. It's time for Matt Shea to field your questions. If Matt Shea has the courage to stand in front of you like we have, it's time for him to do it. He owes it to the people that elected him. Just as I owe it to the people that elected me after that press conference to sit here and answer your questions.
Sure, you mentioned something about 39 months from now, you're not going to be here. Are you saying that you're going to step down from office in 39 months?
I'm not running again.
Will you have any intention to seek any other office after you're done as sheriff?
You know, a lot of people ask me that question. A lot of people have speculations about my future. Here's what I have on the table. I'm working to get my master's so I can teach at the college level.
Tanner, what can you add to what the other gentlemen have said that would corroborate his role in all of this?
I mean, ultimately, my role was, after I first met Jay, he and I were made friends, and when he brought this document to me, the biblical base for war, I was one to release that. I guess my whole entire role in it was kind of how do we get this out, how do we get the ball rolling, and I told Jay that I'd be the one to put it out first and take the heat. So, him started everything. That's ultimately my pivotal role in this whole thing. I've since been involved, and Jay and I talk and discuss things that go on, and it's been a ride, I guess is the way to put it. But as far as when it comes to things like the biblical basis for war and other documents which have been published, I think it's important to look at it from all aspects. You do have a religious aspect to it, but you also have historical context within these documents. So if we're going to go down this road and we're going to talk about the biblical basis for war, well, that's for one of the most simple things to me when I read it and understanding how Matt Shea that it wasn't a Bible story, that it absolutely was not, is where the Bible doesn't mention communism at any point. It historically can't happen. Communism didn't exist during the Old Testament. And sometimes they'll argue that Greek philosophers who existed back around then were kind of the founders of the idea of communism, and not Karl Marx, but even at that, when you go through the historical timeline, those men all existed and died before the Jews even appeared in the Greek record. So when you dive into the documents and you look at what's being said, you not only see inaccuracies with what's said within the Bible as far as its theology goes, but how can this be certain? Why was communism mentioned if it's simply a certain notes on just war theory, which is founded in the Old Testament, if it didn't exist? That's one of the main things that piqued my interest about it at first when I saw was this doesn't add up. And you can go through the bullet points and find plenty of things that add up, like where in Christianity does it say if somebody disagrees with you, kill all the men. So,
Sheriff, what's the current state of Antifa in Spokane County?
The current state of Antifa in Spokane County is very limited. They really don't have much of a presence here. They have been here. When Joe Gibson had his senatorial kickoff or meeting here, they actually came over. I actually sent a letter to members of the Democratic Party stating that, we're not for them. And I meant it, we're not for them.
Jay, are you going to write another book from an insider's point of view?
No plans at this time, Shea.
Question for
Yeah, first, and I'll catch you up.
So, with the issue of like communism, white supremacy, white nationalism, being something we've seen all across the country these past several years, we have seen politicians on a national scale like us, something like that, or states that it's an issue. Like, what is your response to politicians that are trying to blind eye these things, or saying that something else rather than white supremacy and right-wing extremism?
So I think we have to look at history. Here in the Northwest, if you look at the domestic terrorism organization that is most likely to commit a mass casualty incident or an act of terrorism, you're going to see it's connected to white supremacy. Here. Now that might not be the case everywhere, but I think at least people around here should, you don't have to dig very deep to start compiling the list. I think folks around here should at least be willing to say, like others have, white supremacy is a problem, and we need to consider it as a problem. It doesn't mean everybody is a white supremacist. Like I said, not all Republicans are racist, but I think we have to honestly say that they do exist and that it is a problem.
What's the key to several of you have been in organizations or groups you might consider extremists today? I guess what's the key to pulling people away from extremism? People that are in that world, what's the key to rescuing them in a sense?
Well, I think I'm one who can speak to that since I was within an organization that believes in this. And one of the key things that hit me the most was that I wasn't actually talking or understanding other people's positions. One of the most eye-opening moments is that I had the opportunity to sit down with people of different backgrounds, different orientations, different life stories. And I think one of the things that we're not doing well here in the Spokane area is we don't take the time to understand other people's stories. I've taken the opportunity to reach out in the last 18 months to folks within the Democrats, folks within the LGBT community, folks of different backgrounds, and sit down and say, tell me your story. Really understand where you come from. It doesn't mean we don't have different moral positions. I believe differently than some of my friends, and I still care very deeply about them. But what we don't do well here in Spokane is we love to stand on opposite sides of the street and help each other. We never take the opportunity to meet in the middle and say, okay, you think different, I think different. So why don't we sit down and talk about what are some solutions for Spokane, and how do we make a better community? Folks within extremist movements don't take that opportunity because all they see is here. They have the blinders over their eyes of what their belief system is, and that everybody else is wrong in that. But when you step back from that and realize that there are human beings throughout this entire equation, different thought processes, different backgrounds, different orientations, beliefs, we're not taking the opportunity to do that. I can tell you that my experience within this organization, they absolutely do not want to do that under any circumstance. They don't want to meet and understand anyone else. What they believe is what they believe. It's historically backed by the fact that if you don't believe these things, you are an enemy of that organization, and that just isn't going to be good for Spokane. Anybody understands what this is going to look like over the next 18 to 19 months, is it's going to take some time to heal this area. And that's going to mean we're going to have to sit across from each other and say, okay, you're very different than I am. You have a different story than I do. Let's talk civilly about those things, not call each other dirty, godless, hateful people.
I'm going to call it quits at that point. You got 10 minutes, maybe. So you did.
Yes,
Go ahead, Sonny.
So have your documents, Jay, been given to the group that's doing the investigation for the House Republican caucus?
Yes, that provides documentation.
Okay, has J.T. Wilcox talked to you?
No, he has not reached out to me.
I know that when I messaged with him, he was waiting for the report before he would make any statement.
It's my understanding he's given instruction to the entire caucus not to speak to him,
Which,
not to say anything because the report itself.
waiting for the report.
Yes.
Perfectly understandable, actually.
Okay, now I'm gonna call y'all out. All right? We have to be out of the building in 10 minutes. So